All right, good evening and welcome to tonight's live to celebrate the launch of the Triathlon Nutrition Academy. Woohoo! In true Taz fashion, I've gone too hard this week and have ended up getting a cold. So I'm really hoping my voice hangs on for us because there's quite a number of lives left to go. We've still got Friday, Saturday, Sunday night lives to go. So hopefully my voice can hang on. Hey guys, we've got Kristen, we've got Chris, we've got Alana and Carmel and Charis Natural Nutrition. Hi guys, how are you? All right, so tonight we're going to talk about how to maintain your energy levels for training and still drop body fat, which is something that people struggle with a little bit. Everyone wants to lean up, right? We want to be as lean as possible because it makes us go a bit faster. To a certain extent, though, I think it's quite a delicate balance. There's a balance between being lean and performing and having a good power to weight ratio, but then also being too light. And we affect things like our injury risk, illness risk, and we also affect our hormones too if we go too hard and put ourselves into too much of a hole. So I want to give you some strategies tonight to be able to drop body fat and still be able to survive triathlon training because it's hard work training for 3 disciplines. And the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they go too hard and they run out of puff, like they have no energy. So they've put themselves into too much of a calorie deficit and then their training really suffers. That's one of the biggest things that I see. And then as a result of that, then you end up just starving. And if you're starving all the time, you end up overeating often and eating the wrong things. Or if you get too tired, we start to crave sweet and we eat more chocolate than we would otherwise. So sometimes when we try and go too aggressive with our weight loss, it actually has the opposite effect. And it can be quite frustrating when you're trying to drop weight and it's not going anywhere, or you're putting on weight. Like, it seems crazy for triathletes to gain weight when you train so much. But one of my favorite quotes is you can't out-train a bad diet. And it is so true because the number of triathletes that I see that eat terribly and still, do 10, 12, 13, up to 18 hours of training a week and their body composition doesn't change because you will just kind of readjust to that training. Like, you might have some weight loss to start with if you're new to the sport. But then once your body gets used to that level of training, then it's not so much of a shock for the system anymore. So I guess have a look at some of the elite triathletes and as examples of some body composition to strive for. For some of us, it's completely unrealistic, but just as an example off the top of my head, have a look at Flora Duffy. Now, back in the day, I'm talking maybe 10, 15 years ago, the message for triathletes was to just get as lean and light as possible because that's going to make you run faster. Now, that was kind of old mentality thinking. Now our current thinking is you need to have more muscle on and be strong. So Flora Duffy's a great example of this. If you go and have a look at photos of her from maybe circa 2014, around that sort of time, she was pretty lean, but didn't have a lot of muscle mass on. And go and have a look at photos to maybe 2019, 2018, and her biggest shift in body composition was putting on muscle. And that's when she started winning, when she actually put on that muscle. So the message shouldn't always be just get skinny, get as light as possible, because it is a delicate balance and your performance will get affected negatively if you are too light as well. So for you need to figure out where that tipping point is. A lot of triathletes could afford to lose a couple of kilos. I'm not going to lie. Like, as a body composition expert, I see that. But it just depends where your mentality is at too, right? Like, are you trying to win or you're just out there to have fun? And so therefore, what's important to you? being like really quite controlled or strict with your food intake to get there? Or are you just out to have a bit of a laugh and be social and enjoy the beautiful sport of triathlon without having to stress too much about that? So it depends who I'm talking to around what advice I would give in that space too, because for some people they just don't care, and other people it's like all they care about. So my number one tip, if you were trying to drop body fat and you really are struggling with your energy levels, or we need to try and maintain those across the week, is to periodize your nutrition. Now, that means that you shouldn't eat the same thing each day, okay? Because you don't train the same way every day. You've got swimming, cycling, and running to contend with, and your training program is going to evolve across the week. Like, you're going to have lighter training days, you're going to have more moderate to harder type training days, and then you've got big long training sessions as well. And you need to eat differently for those different days to support them properly with fueling, and that is going to help you drop body fat if you do that too. So often I see people under eating through the week because they're eating the same Monday to Friday when you've got the structure of your work week. And that can be okay if it's a lighter day, but you're not scaling up for those heavy training days. And so by the time Friday comes around, you're just a mess. Like, you're wrecked, you're tired, you didn't feel properly earlier when you needed to. And so the body's a bit exhausted, and that's not a good space to be in for fat loss, because you're more likely to crave sweet foods then and eat junk food to sort of pep your energy levels up. And then the other thing that people do really poorly is underfuel long training sessions. And they would be your biggest calorie burn sessions in your whole week. And so you need to match that with your nutrition. Your energy intake should more closely match your expenditure. And that's going to help you drop body fat, because you're not falling into a hole. And then your body's not going to then try and play catch up with your appetite that it sends out the next day or the day after, when you're just starving and your training load or energy expenditure isn't there, because that's generally a lighter training day or recovery day. All right, I need my voice to hang on. Hold on a second. Hey, Liv, welcome to Insta. Alrighty, so that would be my number one tip if you're trying to drop body fat and maintain energy, is to periodize your nutrition. And to do that, you're probably going to need a sports dietitian to have a look at your training program and write your meal plan, or get you to understand the types of foods that you need to be eating on certain types of training days. So I like to teach my athletes, and what we're doing in the Triathlon Nutrition Academy is we're going through a whole month of periodization. So I can teach them how to eat on lighter training days. Hi, Liv. How to eat on really hard double session days. And then I'm going to teach them how to eat on those long training session days. So as part of the academy, I've got frameworks for that, so that you understand how to periodize your nutrition to better support training days. Hey, Scotto, how are you? Liv, I've gone and got myself a cold. Gone too hard on the lives at 7:30. I'm a true triathlete and like to be in bed by 8:30. So going live every night at 7:30, this is the result. This has just killed me. And we've still got multiple days to go. But it's worth it. It's totally worth it to launch my program, because it's so exciting. So is that a hand up, Scott, or are you just saying hi? Because if you've got a question, just type it in and I'll answer it for you. Wow, there's heaps of people on. We've got Beck Bergland, Try It Chick, Carly's here. Hey, Cooper. I missed all these people, sorry. Hello, I was too busy talking. All right, wow, there's loads of people. Oh, Junie's here as well. Hi, Junie. Oops. I accidentally closed my phone. I just did it again. All right, sorry, team. I am back. Oh, Nadine says hi too. Hey, cuz. How you going? Learning about triathlon nutrition. Okay, so number one tip, periodize your nutrition and learn about how to eat for different training days, because that is going to help you drop body fat much more effectively than putting yourself into a hole and playing catch up. My second biggest tip is to let training drive that change in body composition. Okay. So rather than trying to put yourself into a really severe calorie deficit all the time, then what you want to try and do is eat well, eat properly, eat healthy foods, periodize your nutrition to your training, and try and let training volume increase as it does across the season heading into a race. Try and let that drive your body composition change more than trying to chase it. Okay. Hey, try it, chick. So if you do that, if you let your training volume drive the change more than trying to chase it with a severe calorie deficit, you will have more energy to get through your training sessions. And that'll help it happen slowly as well. So that would be my third tip, is to make sure it's nice and slow and steady. If you are trying to drop 10 kilos in a really short time frame, like everyone wants to lose, 2 kilos yesterday, we're all impatient humans, you will have much better success if you do it slowly and controlled. Excuse me. Sorry if you can hear that through the microphone. Just trying to be able to breathe here. So nice and slow and steady. So when we're talking about weight loss, we want to talk in small numbers. So your goal, your target would be no more than 0.5 kilo to 1 kilo a week maximum, like no more than that. 1 kilo a week is pretty fast. If you want to maintain it and also still have the energy to survive training, then I'd be aiming for maybe 0.5 kilo or even less, like maybe 1 kilo a month as an example, trying to aim for a slower target. If you compound that over time though, if you compound that over 6 months, that's 6 kilos. So if you're a little bit more patient with your body fat loss, you will have better outcomes. You'll still have energy to train, and then you're more likely to keep that off as well. It's when we lose it really hard and fast that we can't maintain it. And when we're losing weight hard and fast, excuse me, oh no, shocking. When we're losing weight hard and fast, we are dropping muscle mass when we do that. We're not just dropping body fat. So you will be more effective at dropping fat only if you slow it down. So Charis Natural Nutrition said, do you subscribe to the idea of endurance athletes doing weights resistance to promote weight loss? Absolutely. Weights or strength is one of the other disciplines of triathlon, and a lot of triathletes miss it. They often miss out on doing weights in the gym, and you don't necessarily need to do it like from you need to do this to lose weight perspective, but it's really good to have strength. And when we're trying to drop body fat, a really good way to maintain our muscle is to do strength training as well. So we're not eating away at your muscles. So definitely good for endurance athletes to be doing strength just generally. It's good to make you faster and a better athlete. And it will also help you to maintain your muscle mass while you're dropping body fat. So there's a few nutritional things that you can do if you're trying to drop body fat and maintain your muscle. And I'll teach you how to do that in the Triathlon Nutrition Academy. Chris said, hey, Taryn, a few years when I was training really hard, about 20 hours a week for ITU, I actually found myself gain 1 to 2 kilos. Yeah, so was it muscle though, Chris, or was it fat? And Carly put a little weightlifting emoji. That's your favorite discipline, wouldn't it be, Carly? Thanks for joining me, Carly. I don't think I've seen you all week. Okay, so so Chris said, my theory is that if I was overfueling to try to compensate for the fatigue my body was experiencing, do you have any further thoughts on gaining weight while training hard? Bit of both, I think. So could have been you just gained some muscle. You put training stimulus and the right nutrition in place, you will generally gain muscle. You're a guy, you've got testosterone. And if you were doing ITU style stuff, Chris, I don't know, I'm not across your training program because you didn't train with us at the Gold Coast Performance Center, but you were probably doing some strength. And so it might have just been the nutrition aligned with some strength training that helped you to put on some muscle. It's unlikely that you gained body fat doing 20 hours of triathlon training if you're eating properly. But like I said in the beginning, I'm not sure if you're here or not, you can't out-train a bad diet. So you could still be training 20 hours a week and not be eating properly and gain weight. That's totally like reasonable and realistic for that to happen. A lot of higher level athletes, depending on how long you're in the sport for, your body becomes a well-oiled machine, and so you become quite efficient at exercise, and so your overall energy needs are not as high as somebody that starts doing triathlon, where you have a massive change and your body's like, whoa, hang on a minute, what are you doing to me here? That's like way more energy than I've ever expended. And so often their requirements are higher than somebody that's been doing the sport for quite a long time. So just a quick summary for those of you that are just joining, in terms of trying to drop body fat and not fall into a heap, still maintain our energy levels. So my number one point was to make sure you're eating strategically and you're periodizing your nutrition around training. And then number two was let your training drive that change in body composition a little bit rather than trying to really aggressively chase it. That's just going to really impact your energy levels and your performance too. You're just going to be fatigued. And then number three was slow and steady wins the race. Now, we are all impatient, so it's making sure that if you do want to drop some body weight, that you are comfortable with the time frame that it should happen in. Because my fourth point is that you shouldn't be race weight all year. We always talk about this elusive race weight, and for everyone it's different, and it can evolve over your career as an athlete as well, like what your race weight actually is. So the longer you're in the sport for, you might actually have a lower race weight as your body gets used to being leaner and fitter. Hey, M5 management, I'm assuming that's Phil. How you going? So I don't think you should be race weight all year anyway. And race weight for you might look totally different but now and in 5 years' time. And it's getting an understanding of what's realistic for you. But it's okay if your weight does come up and down a little bit across the season. Like just like we periodize our nutrition approach, we kind of need to periodize our body composition too a little bit. So if you lean up a little bit for a race, like you might drop a kilo or two, that's totally reasonable. And we're letting that increasing training volume drive the change in that. And then it's okay to sort of slowly eat, like your training volume goes down, you might eat a little bit extra. It's okay for your weight to come up a kilo or two as well. What we want to avoid is having massive, big fluctuations in our body composition. Hey, Leslie, how you going? Like I've got an Ironman athlete who comes to see me. He's come twice now, 2 or 3 times, twice, I think, for Ironman. And every time he walks in my door, 20 weeks away from Ironman, and he needs to lose 10 kilos. So we work really hard to still fuel his performance and get those 10 kilos off so that he's comfortable and confident when he toes the start line. And then he ghosts me until the next Ironman when he comes back another 10 kilos heavier, and we've got to do the process again. I'm pretty sure we've done that twice now. So this time we're not going to do that. And he's actually booked in consultations post Ironman to try and break some of the habits that he has probably had since childhood. Because a lot of Ironman athletes, I might actually do a podcast episode on this, I think, but I've noticed over my career that a lot of Ironman athletes use Ironman training to control their body composition, because you have such massive training load that it can mask underlying food behaviors and issues and habits that have been there, because you can out-train it a little bit. And then so you stop Ironman training and then your weight just escalates really quickly. So I might actually do a podcast episode on that, because I think that's quite an interesting topic of discussion. It might be quite confronting for some people to listen to, but I've seen it quite a few times. So I'm starting to think that there's quite a pattern to that people do use Ironman to actually control their body composition. They have like a switch, right? An on or off switch for, right, I'm doing an Ironman. It's time to eat healthy, exercise, lean up. And then Ironman's over and the switch is back off again, and it's drinking and eating junk food and not training as much. So, and it's an interesting discussion that I think is worth having. All right. So they would be my 4 sort of tips for how to actually drop body fat and still maintain your energy levels. I've been doing a lot of talking and I'm losing my voice. So if there's any other questions, please type them in. We've had some good questions. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Charis Nutrition. But just to summarize for those people that have just jumped on, and if you're watching the replay too, so making sure that you do periodize your intake for training. And I'm going to teach my Triathlon Nutrition Academy athletes exactly how to do that for them so that they are eating differently for different types of training days, because that is the best and easiest way to maintain your energy levels and still lean up. And then number 2 was let training drive that change a little bit. So obviously you still need to eat well, but if you're eating well and training and your energy expenditure matches your energy intake closer, then it's much easier to do that without falling into a heap. Hey, Jukesy and Peter, how are you? Slow and steady wins the race. So we want to aim for like no more than half a kilo to a kilo a week. You might start with a bit of a faster trajectory. So maybe it's a kilo a week to start with, and then it slows down to half a kilo, and then even maybe slower than that. But just making sure that it's not a really hard, quick, fast weight loss, because then you're more likely to drop muscle mass if that's the case. And if you're eating away at your muscles, there's no way you're going to have the energy to train hard either. And that you shouldn't be race weight all year. So some little fluctuations up and down are okay. We don't want big shifts of like 10 kilos. Even sort of 5-6 kilos might be a lot for somebody, depending on how big you are. If you're like 90 kilos, that might be okay. But if you're 60 kilos or 50 kilos, and that's a huge shift. So if you're trying to do that, like lean up for a race, then you want to try and do it a bit earlier too, rather than chasing your tail in the back end of a peak race build. You want to drop your body fat potentially much earlier. So start it before your training build starts, so that by the time you get to peak race season, you are close-ish to race weight. You don't have to be race weight, but you're leaner. And then when in the back end of training, as you're heading into your key event, then you can focus on really fueling for performance rather than trying to put yourself in a calorie deficit, which is not going to end that well when you've got big training loads or key sessions that are race specific and we're trying to drive those adaptations for racing. All right, so I hope that's helped. If you have any questions about the Triathlon Nutrition Academy, please send me a message. We have got doors open at the moment, but they are closing Monday night, and I'm not sure when they're going to open again. So you have a short window of opportunity to come and join us, or I'm going to help you do this. I'm going to help you lean up without losing your energy levels and have some plans and frameworks to follow, because I find that it's difficult without having some specific stuff for you, for foods that you like to eat and based on your training. But we're going to go through that and we're going to work out plans together so that you know exactly what to eat to best support your training and get the ideal body composition that you want. So I hope that's been fun and you've enjoyed me. I'm going to go rest my voice now. Tomorrow night we are going to jump on and I'm going to talk about recovery nutrition. So as long as I've got my voice, I will be here. I'll be here at 7:30 on a Friday night. So let's see if anyone joins me. Probably not the most exciting Friday night, but I know that a lot of the country is in lockdown, and if you're a triathlete, then you're probably not doing much on a Friday night anyway. So come and join me. We're going to talk about nailing your recovery nutrition, and I will see you tomorrow.